Good morning, students. In today's class on managing change in organization, we'll start a new topic that is organizational culture. In the previous class, we are reading about what are the ways in which we can overcome organizational resistance. What are the ways in which we can overcome this resistance that occurs? So, there has been a gap due to our internal assessment. So, we'll just refresh our memory regarding the previous topic that we have covered, and then we'll move on to the new topic that is organizational culture. So in the previous class, we were studying about what ways in which we can overcome this resistance to change, this organizational resistance to change. So the first way is education and communication. We have to educate the people, the employees, regarding the complete change process. We have to communicate to the employees about the complete change process so that there is no fear, there is no ambiguity, there is no confusion in the minds of the employees. So when they have proper education and communication is done and the persons involved in the change process completely convey this message to the employees are in a better position and can understand the reasons why the change is occurring and why this change is required for the organization. When they understand why the change is required, they will embrace the change and the resistance will be overcome. The second way of overcoming resistance to change is by participation. The people or the employees who are resisting the change, they can be included in the change process. They can be given certain tasks to perform, certain roles. Once they participate in the change process, they will no longer resist the change, and the people also will see that since they have participated in the change program, they will also stop resisting the change. Then comes the third point is building support and commitment. It is very essential that we should build support and commitment of the employees before implementing a change initiative, because when the employees are having commitment or when support is there from the employees and people of the organization, the employees, they have complete belief in the organization and why the organization is moving ahead with the change initiative, then they will support this change initiative and they will not resist uh, this change. So the resistance to change will be overcome. Another way of overcoming resistance to change is through negotiation. We can negotiate with these people or groups who are resisting the change and come with novel solution so that they will also start accepting the change or embrace the change. So negotiation is also one of the ways which can be utilized in order to see that people overcome this resistance to change. Then comes develop positive relations. The organization should try to foster and develop positive relationship with employees, because if there is positive relationship with the employees, then the people will be in a better position to understand and accept the communication made by the organization or the management. So the management should try, the leaders of the organization should try to develop this positive relation with these employees so that whenever a change initiative is being started, then these people will not resist the change and will accept the change. Then comes implementing changes fairly. Whenever a change initiative is going to be implemented in the organization, there is fear in the minds of the people regarding job loss or regarding the failure of the change implementation, or to see that there is maybe change in the power structure of the organization. So there are various ways or the changes will not be properly implemented, fairly implemented in the organizations. So while implementing the change initiative in the organization, proper care should be seen taken to see that the implementation change of the change program or the initiative takes place fairly, so that each and every person who are still resisting this change will not resist and embrace the change. Then comes manipulation and cooptation. These are two weapons that can be used by the management in order to manipulate and also manipulate the feelings of the people, and to use cooptation as a means of overcoming change, of overcoming this resistance to change. So these are very useful tools used by the management. Then comes selecting people who accept change. So whenever we are appointing new blood, or whenever a new incumbents are entering into organization, we should see that they have a better attitude, a dynamic attitude. They are ready to change, and they are ready to learn new skill sets and work in various dynamic situation, work environments. So while because these are certain soft skills like this attitude and personality of the employees that cannot be instilled by the management, and this attitude and personality should be there in the employees. So whenever new employees are being recruited, it must be seen that they have a positive attitude, dynamic attitude and personality, so that they will be readily accepting change whenever a change initiative is being implemented in the organization. So therefore we have to see while recruitment only and selection that people who generally are acceptable or open to change are recruited into the organization. And finally, question can be used. They can be certain fake news can be done, certain their views and their opinions can be manipulated, and question or power can be used. Like example for question, like if they do not adhere to this change initiative, they will lose their jobs or there will be pay cuts. So these are certain question methods that is used by the management in order to see that the people accept the change in the organization, and these are the ways in which the organization overcomes this resistance to change. This we have read in the previous class. So this is just brief introduction and a brief refreshment of memory. Now we'll start with the today's topic, that is organizational culture. Organizational culture is the specific collection of values and norms shared by people and groups in an organization. So these are certain shared values and norms that is shared by these people, and this collection of values and norms, they shape the behavior of the employees. So that is the reason organizational culture is very, very important. It controls the way they interact with each other and stakeholders outside the organization. So these shared norms and values, this shapes the behavior of the employees, and this controls the way of behavior, how they interact with each other inside the organization, also how they interact with various stakeholders outside the organization. That is the reason why the organizational culture is very, very important. Now, organizational culture, if you look at the definition, refers to a system of shared meaning held by the members that distinguishes the organization from other organizations. So these are certain shared values and norms. These are very unique to a particular organization that is upheld or held by the members of the organization, organizational members, and this organizational culture distinguishes one organization from another organization. Organization culture is a set of assumptions, beliefs, values, and norms that are shared by the organizing members. So this is only a much more simplification of the definition, which states that whenever we see organizational culture, it is a set of assumptions, certain opinions, certain assumptions, certain beliefs, certain value systems and norms that is generally shared by all the organizational members, and this organizational culture, this shared values and norms is represented by this organizational culture. So this is the definition of our organizational culture. Now we understand what are the various characteristics of organizational culture. Following characteristics seem to capture the essence of organizational culture. So there are certain characteristics that are very, very capture the essence of the organizational culture. These are mentioned in the next slide. Now moving on to the culture, organizational culture characteristics. The first characteristics, innovation and risk taking. The degree to which employees are encouraged to be innovative and take risks. So this is one of the characteristics. So innovation and risk taking is one of the characteristics of this organizational culture. Then comes attention to detail. The degree to which people are expected to exhibit precision, analysis, and attention to detail. So this is also one of the characteristics of organizational culture, where the employees, they have a shared value of attention to detail, where the degrees, that means attention to detail, the degree to which the employees are expected to exhibit precision analysis and attention to the details and work accordingly. Then comes the third characteristics, that is outcome orientation. The degree to which management focuses on results or outcomes rather than on the techniques and processes used to achieve them. So if organizational culture is said to be having outcome oriented, we mean that the management is much more focused on the result or the outcomes rather than the processes or the means used to achieve those outcomes. Then comes the fourth characteristic, that is people orientation. The degree to which management decisions takes into consideration the effect of outcomes on people within the organization. When they say that the organizational culture of a organization is a people oriented, that means that whenever the management takes a decision regarding various processes or various norms, various change program that is going to happen, whatever, this should be people oriented, where people are kept at the focus and all the management decisions are based upon the people. So then we can say when the organization is people oriented. Then comes team orientation, the degree to which work activates or activities are organized around teams rather than individuals. So when we say the organizational culture is of a team orientation based, then all the activities are based on teams rather than on individual effort. Then comes the aggressiveness, the degree to which people are aggressive and competitive rather than easy. So if you say if an organization culture is very, very aggressive, the people are very, very aggressive, they are very competitive oriented, and they want to achieve the goals at any cost, and they are not easygoing or lackadaisical. So these are we can say that the organizational culture is aggressive. Then comes the stability, the degree to which the organization activities emphasizes and maintaining the status quo in contrast to growth. So there must be stability in the organizational culture. Even though stability is there, is stability ensures that a proper norms are followed, proper value system is followed, and certain behavior which the organization upholds, that behavior is followed. And this stability ensures that all the people, all the new incumbents and the people already working in the organization, they adhere to certain common shared values and norms. So this kind of stability is also one of the characteristics of an organizational culture, because an organizational culture which has a stable an organization which has a stable organizational culture will be able to make sure that the organization performs at the best, and they are able to perform more effectively and efficiently. So this is also one of the characteristics of organizational culture. Then comes the norms. Whenever an organizational culture is discussed, the norms comes into mind. Norms are nothing but the small rules, the standards of behavior. These are set to guide the organizational member on how much to do. This in many organizations express, do not do too much, do not do too little. So what are the ways in which they should conduct themselves? What are the ways in which they should behave with other people in the organization, also the various stakeholders outside the organization? What are the various standard set of behavior and the rules that they need to follow? These are the norms. Any organizational culture that has any strong organizational culture must have very proper norms in place, so that each and every member, they share these norms and they upheld these norms. And these organizational members, they will understand what is their role in the organization, how much they have to do. They neither need to do too much or too little, but as per what is the expected from them. So this is also one of the uh, characteristics of organization from culture. Then comes another characteristics of organizational culture, that is dominant values. The organizational culture generally shows the dominant values that the organization has. Organization advocates some major values which are also known as core values, and expect the same to be imbibed by its organizational participants. Imbibed means absorbed. So this organizations, they want that the certain core values that should be absorbed by all the employees or all the organizational participants. And a few examples of such popular values are product quality, regularity, and efficiency. So these are certain qualities, dominant values that the organization generally wants to follow. That is that they want to maintain a proper product quality in whatever production is done. They have want to work efficiently, regularly, and effectively. So these are certain dominant values or dominant core values that is present in the organization. So any organizational culture, when we discuss this, must be having certain dominant core values, so that these values will also guide the employees to behave or conduct in a certain way. So this is also very, very important, one of the characteristics of organizational culture. Each of these characteristics exist in continuum from low to high. So the degree to which the all these characteristics are present in an organizational culture, they may be low or high. Maybe the dominant values will be high, the dominant values will be low, maybe the aggressiveness will be high, maybe aggressiveness will low or medium. So there is a continuum under which from low to high, all these characteristics are present in an organization. Then appraising the organization on them then gives a composite picture of its culture and a basis for the shared understanding members have about the organization. So while looking at all the characteristics that are present in the organizational culture, this gives an idea or the complete picture of the organizational culture that is present in the organization. And this forms also the understanding of the basic shared understanding of members that I have about the organization, how the things are done in the organization, the way of doing the things in the organization, and the way they are supposed to behave. So this is the main important points also, because this organizational culture, this acts as a guiding tool, controlling tool of the new incumbent, and also the people who are already working in the organization. They understand how, what are the values that the organization is upholding, and they will also understand what are the things they have to be done, and how they have to conduct themselves, and how they have to behave with the members of the organization and other stakeholders outside the organization. So this organizational culture and the characteristics are very important to understand the organization culture. Organizational culture represents a common perception the organization members hold. So organizational culture is nothing but is a common perception or shared values, norms, beliefs that the all organizational members upheld or hold together. This is known as the organizational culture. Now, most large organizations have a dominant culture and numerous subcultures. So when we are speaking about what are the various kinds of culture, organizational culture present in an organization or found in many organizations, generally there are maybe dominant culture or subculture, or there may be strong culture or weak culture. So we'll be understanding each of these headings one by one. So most organizations generally found a dominant culture and numerous subcultures. When we say a dominant culture, or dominant culture expresses the core values. These are nothing but the dominant values which we have discussed earlier. A dominant culture expresses the core values of majority of the members share, and that give the organization its distinct personality. So whenever we say that organization has a particular distinct personality, suppose when the first thing that comes to our mind when we talk about a company like Tata is trust. That comes to the mind, that whatever products that the Tata is giving or selling to these customers, the customers have certain belief on the products, because they believe Tata stands for trust. So this is a dominant core value that is found in the members of the Tata organization, and all the people working in Tata, they uphold this uh, core value, and they try to function according to this core value. So this is the dominant culture that is found in Tata. If you give an example, so a dominant culture expresses the core values of a majority of the majority of members share, that the majority of the members in the organizational members, they share that particular core values, then only it becomes a dominant culture, and this gives the organization its distinct personality. So what does it mean by it gives a distinct personality? Because once we understand the core values of a particular organization, then we can differentiate one organization from another organization, and it has a unique value that gives to a particular organization. So this dominant culture gives the organization its distinct personality. In fact, when we talk about organizational culture, we generally refer to the dominant culture. So whenever also we discuss that organizational culture in a particular organization, this, so we generally refer to the dominant culture that is prevalent in that organization. Example, most of the employees in Reliance Group share a common value of time, and this creates a dominant culture in the organization that helps to guide the day-to-day behavior of the employees. So in a Reliance Group, as we Tata, as we are discussing, in a Reliance Group, then generally core values, one of the core values is to perform, value the value of the time, and perform all the activities in that deadline. So this dominant culture is found throughout the organization, and this is guides the behavior of the organizational members in their day-to-day functioning. So this is the example of a dominant culture that is found in Reliance Group. Now, apart from dominant culture, we have also understood that apart from dominant culture, there are also numerous subcultures that is found in an organization. So when we say subcultures, subcultures tend to develop in large organizations to reflect common problems or experience members face in the same department or location. Whenever subcultures, we are the understanding, where we say subcultures, it means a certain, in large organizations, certain common problems are there, certain common experience that the members of a particular department or a particular division or a particular location face. So these things are known as the subcultures that are present in the organization. The subcultures are mini cultures within an organization. So these subcultures are nothing but small or mini or cultures that are present in the organization, typically defined by department designations and geographical separation. So these subcultures differ based on the various departments or the designations or the geographical locations in which the substation is or subunit is present. So these are known as the subcultures. These subcultures may can form vertically or horizontally. So these subcultures can be also found horizontally or vertically. An example will be given in order to clear our doubt. When one product division of a conglomerate has a culture unique from that of the other division of the organization, it is a vertical subculture exists. So whatever the subculture, that is one unique culture that is found in one division that is different from the other division, then this was a vertical subculture that exists. And when a specific set of functioning specialists such as accountants have a set of common shared understanding, a horizontal subculture is formed. Similarly, a people from particular that they have a common experience, like if a specialist, we have taken an example of an accountant. So what are the various norms or experience various experiences of accountants, shared experience and understanding, this is form a horizontal subculture. So these are the ways in which vertical and horizontal subcultures are found in organizations. So these are, we have understood what is dominant culture and what is the subcultures. Now moving on to uh, weak culture and strong culture. So based on the intensity of sharedness, organizational culture can be divided into strong culture and weak culture. So what is the intensity of the sharedness of these common values and norms and beliefs that the organizational members have in common? So if this sharedness, the intensity, if it is more, then it is a strong culture. And this, if in this intensity is very less or is not very intensified in the intensified in the between the organizational members, then it is a weak culture. We'll understand it a little bit elaborated way. A strong culture is characterized by the organization's core values being intensely held and widely spread. So whenever we say this a particular culture is very strong, we mean that the organization's core values are very intensely held by the organization member and widely shared. So a lot of people, they completely share and uphold this organizational core values. So then we can say that there is a strong culture found in the organization. The degree of sharedness depend upon two factors. One is orientation and the second one is reward. So what, when we say the intensity of sharedness is there, and accordingly we can divide into strong culture and weak culture, there are certain factors that is very important in order to measure this intensity of sharedness. One is orientation and the second one is reward. So let us understand orientation. In order for people to share the same cultural values, orientation programs are organized to tell the new incumbents about the organization's philosophy and methods of operation. So this orientation helps in intensifying the sharedness of these core values, because these orientation programs are organized in order to tell this new incumbents or the new joinees or the newcomers about the organization's philosophies and methods of operations. Why they are generally informed or communicated regarding this culture? Because whenever they are entering into the organization, they are becoming a part of the organization, they should be able to understand this shared core values, and they should also uphold this core value. So that is the reason this orientation programs helps this new incumbents to understand the organization's philosophy and the methods of operation, the guidelines, and the which their behavior can be controlled in the organization. And then rewards are also affect the sharedness or the intensity of sharedness. How? Promoting and rewarding employees who held the core values help others as well to do to better understand and imbibe the core values. So whenever certain persons who are following this core values or widely sharing these core values or upholding this core values, these people are promoted or rewarded, then it acts as a mm, example for the others, and the others are in a better position to understand the core values and also imbibe those core values or absorb those core values in their day-to-day functioning. When core values are not shared with high degree of intensity, it forms a weak culture. So when the degree of or the intensity of the sharedness is less, then the degree of intensity of sadness is less, it forms a weak culture. Weak culture is characteristics by high turnover of the employees. So sometimes due to weak culture, the people are not interested to work in the organization. So sometimes it leads to high turnover of the employees. Now we have understood what is organizational culture. We have understood what are the characteristics of organizational culture and what are the general types of organizational culture. That is dominant culture, subculture, strong culture, and weak culture. So now let us start by understanding what are the various functions of organizational culture. So why this organizational culture is required by an organization? First is this behavioral control. Why this is important? The issue is behavioral control. It is a sense making and control mechanism that guides and shapes employees' attitudes and behavior. So this organizational culture is very, very important because it acts as a control mechanism or a sense making mechanism that guides the employees' attitude and behavior. This is very, very important because if there is no guiding principle, if there is no control mechanism of the behavior of the employees that they share, then all the employees will be behaving as per their whim and fancy, and this will be leading to a lot of chaos in the organization. So there must be a certain uh, guide to the employees that how in what way they should behave, how much they should, what is the way they should conduct this and themselves in the organization, how they should behave with their co-employees within their organization, and also the various stakeholders that are outside the organization. So this is very, very important. So this organizational culture acts as a behavioral control mechanism. So it guides the employees of the organization, their attitudes, their behaviors, the way of conducting in the organization. This is being guided by the organizational culture. That is the reason this organizational culture is very, very important. Then it is very important because the presence of a strong culture would be evident when members share a set of beliefs, values, and assumptions which would influence their behavior in an invisible way. So this organizational culture, when it is a strong organizational culture, this will be very, very evident, will be very, very, very outsidely can be viewed because these members, these shared beliefs, values, and assumptions that the organizational members share, this will completely influence their behavior in an invisible way. So in an invisible way, this organizational culture will guide their behavior. Like in the previous example, where understanding the strong culture we have given, like in Reliance Group, the people are generally value the time and they all perform all the work within their time limitations or deadlines. So when we say that is a strong culture that is found in a Reliance Group, then we can find that this can be found because all the employees of the organization, they value the time and they work according to the various deadlines and try to complete all the tasks that has been assigned to them in time. So this is this strong organizational culture that values time. This in an invisible way, this kinds of constraints or controls the behavior of the employees, on shapes the attitudes and behavior of the employees, because the employees, they do not become lazy, they do not postpone their tasks, and they complete their task in time. So this organizational culture, this completely acts as in an invisible way and acts as a behavior control of these employees. It helps the organizational members to conform to the prescribed and expected mode of behavior. Any organization that has an organizational culture, why they form an organizational culture? Because they want to have a prescribed and expected mode of behavior of the employees. Because if there is no prescribed way or an expected mode of behavior that is present in the organization, then the employees will be start working in their own manner. They will be behaving in their own manner. So this organizational culture acts as a behavioral tool, as a behavioral control mechanism, as a sense making mechanism which guides the employees' attitudes and behavior. That is the reason one is one of the important functions of organizational culture. Now, moving on to the second function is, and it encourages stability. It enhances this organizational culture enhances the stability of the social system. When the organization is there, it needs, as a social system, it needs certain stability. This organizational culture provides the stability to the organization. Culture is the social glue that helps hold the organization together by providing standards for what employees should say or do. So it is a kind of glue that keeps all the members of the organization stick together by providing a way or a standards of procedures, standards of behavior of what the employees should say, what the employees should do, in which way they should behave. So it encourages a certain kind of stability in the organization. So that is the reason it is very, very important for the organization, and the organization should uh, have this a very strong organizational culture which gives the stability to the organization. It enhances the stability by holding the organizational members together by providing them appropriate standards for which the members should stand for. So what happens? It enhances the stability of the organizational members. So why? How it provide stability to the organizational members? This is done by providing these appropriate ways or standards of behavior, what to say, what to do, how to conduct themselves in the organization. This and what these organizations stands or the members that they should stand for. So what is the things or the standards for which the members should stand for? All these things are been uh, completely given by this organizational culture, and this grounds the organization and gives the stability to the organizational culture. Now moving on to the third function of organizational culture is it provides a source of identity. Whenever an organization has a particular culture, this organizational culture, when we have already discussed that it is very unique and it's very gives a distinct identity to the organization and helps to differentiate one organization from other organization. Culture has a identity defining role because the cultural this organizational culture gives a specific identity to the organization, and is in that way it is known as a identity defining role. It creates distinctions between one organization and others. It conveys a sense of identity for organizational members. Why this is important, organizational culture? Because it provides a identity defining role. It helps to gives a distinct character to the organization, and it helps to differentiate one organization with other organization, and it conveys a sense of identity for organizational members. So the organizational members, they have a sense of identity. They feel that they are working in a particular organization which has a very strong organizational culture and has a source of identity, which provides a source of identity to the organizational members. So these are certain functions of organizational culture that were studied in today's class. So please go through the all the topics that we have discussed today. There are other functions are also that will be discussed in the next class. So please go through this video. I'll be sending you the notes digitally. Please go through that. If you have any doubts, contact me. No need to panic. And finally, thank you for your attention.